Hello, and welcome to Black Marriage Therapy, BMT for short. Here we become students of marriage in order to create healthy, long lasting relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Smith, and in today's episode, we will be discussing how to be honest in marriage. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. Today, I'm joined by my co-host,
Junior Smith.
And like I mentioned before, we're talking about honesty in marriage. If you have been enjoying the content, please follow us on Instagram at Black Marriage Therapy. Rate us on your podcast platform and share your favorite episode with a friend. We also have a unique opportunity for you to support this podcast monthly. All you have to do is go to our show notes and click the link to support this podcast. For as little as 99 cents per month, you can partner with us to continue to provide you with high quality content. Let's jump right into it. Honesty is essential to any relationship. So, in this episode specifically, we're going to discuss why we should be honest in our relationships, what honesty really looks like. We're going to talk about our story. We're going to get a little, I don't know if it's taboo. And then, lastly, of course, we're going to help you. We're going to show you how to be honest in your relationship.
All right, so this is the reason why I think we should be honest in relationships, because honesty brings freedom and freedom brings ease. Okay. And people are always trying to do it backwards, right? They ask for help with communication, but they're not being honest in their communication. They ask for help with intimacy, but they're not being honest. Or, trying to rekindle the flames after, infidelity, but they're still not being honest now.
Mm-hmm. With themselves or with their spouse.
So they want the cookie, they want the reward without doing any of the work. Right. And so honesty honestly brings freedom, because think about it. If you're free to say what you need to say, understanding that even if it's taken out of context by your spouse, or even if it does hurt, you guys are still going to have a secondary conversation. So that's where things can be smoothed out. That's where hugs can happen. That's where forgiveness can be given. Then you won't be so afraid, worried about the consequences of your honesty, right? And then after doing that, after a while, you just feel free. Your spouse feels the same way. And that's really how ease steps into the relationship. And so honesty is the best policy because it makes your relationship easy.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people want ease in their relationship. I remember I don't remember, it wasn't interviewing people. I can't remember where this came from. Oh, yeah, we were asking couples some questions, and a lot of couples said that they wanted ease in their relationship. They wanted to feel like it flowed and it was relaxed and things like that. And I totally understand that, where you don't want to feel like you're constantly working. You know what I'm saying? You want a partner who you feel is compatible and stuff like that. But there is a part of that ease. To get to that ease requires some work. And honesty is part of that. So I like that you mentioned that. I think that's the overall message, or the overall understanding of like why honesty is so important in a relationship. But there's some other reasons why honesty is also very important that we want to touch on. The first one is it is the foundation of good communication. Junior mentioned this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the foundation. I think that's very simple. It's the foundation of good communication and intimacy.
Yeah, I think bad communication is just dishonest communication. That's literally like, because we all know how to talk. Somebody says, "Oh, I need help with communicating with my spouse." They don't need help talking to their spouse. They need help being honest with their spouse.
No, but some people are honest and they still have bad communication because they don't know how to be honest, which is why they're listening to this episode, right? This is why I listen to this episode, because y'all being honest and it's not working. You're like, what are you talking about? I did that already. I'm like, oh, we're going to get there, baby. Don't worry. And then I think honesty is also important is because it thwarts manipulation. And when I say that, for me, this is my most important point.
Okay.
And when I say thwarts manipulation is because when you are honest, you give the other person an opportunity to choose. When you are dishonest, you're robbing them of their choice. Essentially, you are manipulating them. And I value autonomy so much. And that's why I require honesty. I didn't know fully in the beginning of our relationship what honesty truly entailed. Now I do. But I do remember since the beginning of our relationship requiring honesty and asking you to be honest as much as possible, even when you felt like you needed to lie to me to protect my feelings.
Was always no. I just felt like you can never ever handle the truth, no matter what. And that was the truth. Was I didn't have the skills, to be honest. Let's just be real.
Okay. But I like honesty was always important to me because I didn't want to feel duped. I didn't want to feel lied to. I needed that choice. I needed the autonomy of making my own choice. And as long as you were lying to me or manipulating me, I could not make my own choice. You know, and then the last reason why I think honesty is very, very important to relationships is because it's necessary for trust. It's a foundation for trust. We talked about trust being consistent action over time. You can't build trust without honesty.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't even, I don't know how you build anything on a lie.
People
a web of lies, maybe.
People do it.
I know people do it, and then it crumbles. And then it crumbles. Okay, so you cannot build trust in your relationship. You can't build that without honesty. But what does honesty really look like?
Yep.
All right. This is for you people out there who believe y'all are so honest and your spouse just can't take your honesty. And that is the real problem. Okay. Meanwhile, your level of honesty is harsh.
Yes.
Your honesty is rugged.
It's unrefined honesty. It's unrefined.
I don't know what kind of honesty this is, but it's not working. Okay. So honesty, when we're talking about honesty, we are not talking about an excuse to be harsh.
Yeah. Or excuse to be lazy.
Or an excuse to be lazy.
Yeah, because if you want honesty to work for you, you have to work with honesty. Mm-hmm. And it's not the first thing that comes into your head you say.
Okay.
So you may not be trying to be harsh, but you may just be being lazy. You don't take time to think about it.
Okay.
You don't take time to figure out when's the best time to say this.
Okay, yeah. Timing.
The right environment.
Okay.
You just want to just talk when you want to talk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No tact.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I'm an honest person.
Yeah, no strategy behind the honesty.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when we talk about what honesty really looks like, we're talking about a refined skill. Honesty in marriage is a skill. It takes intentionality. It really takes effort in being mindful about your honesty, right? And making sure that you're not being honest with ego, with harshness, right? Especially if you know you're right. You're like, oh, this is my opportunity. I'm about to tell you everything, mm-hmm. right? So it is a skill to being honest, lovingly, right? And without harshness and ego. Okay. Now we're talking about honesty and we are about to get real honest. Okay. Because we don't just talk the talk. Okay. We walk the walk and we have had many of experiences when it comes to honesty. And we're just gonna let y'all in. We're gonna let y'all in. Where should we start, Gio? Oh my gosh, I'm a little nervous. Okay. So anyways, we're having a very honest conversation about attraction in our relationship. And it was very complex. And essentially, I think I'm gonna let you take over here because I really don't know what to say, and I'm scared to say the wrong thing.
Okay, so I don't have any problem saying any of this because this is an honest conversation I had with my wife, mm-hmm. and we resolved it, and we've chosen to open it up to talk about it here, so that other people can hear, honest conversations that are complex.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So this was the issue. I started to lose attraction.
Oh my gosh, you even said. Okay, I'm gonna stop being dramatic. Sorry, go ahead.
And I didn't know how to say this to my wife. And I think some of it was the way that she was dressing. Some of it was the weight that she gained. Mm-hmm. And I just knew this was not a conversation that she can handle.
Wait, so I have a question then, because is it a conversation I couldn't handle, or is it a conversation that you felt like typically women can't handle?
Of course. No.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's all about me. And that's why I'm glad we're doing this episode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's never about the other person, right? If there's something you need to say, if you can learn the skill of how to be honest, then you can be able to say anything you need to. Mm-hmm. I would just be like, look at her. She can't even handle the truth, so I can never tell her the truth. Mm-hmm. So this problem is just going to persist. Mm-hmm. right? It's an excuse.
Did you feel really bad about did you feel bad about your feelings or bad about having to like even say something? Because your behavior was showing the truth, whether you liked it or not.
I started to feel bad once I started to feel bad once I started having stories in my head and creating these stories in my head about you. Because after a while, after you're dishonest for a while, you start creating stories.
Yeah.
You start justifying.
Yeah, you live in delusion.
Your dishonesty. Yeah, your delusion.
Yeah.
Right. So if I'm saying Chrislyn cannot be trusted with the truth, and that's a lie, I have to justify my lie after a while. And then I have to just build upon that lie and compound and compound. And so you said you felt me pulling away. And I think I was, right? Emotionally and physically and mentally, because you can't just think somebody has a fatal flaw and still be in love with them. So when I started to pull away from you, that's when I realized that I was in trouble.
So I just think that it sounds like the attraction wasn't even the main problem. It was the fact that you couldn't have the honest conversation about the attraction that compounded it, that made it worse. Because I'm like, if we had the conversation, we could have figured out what we could do about it together. But because we weren't having a conversation and you just kept living in this lie, you kept living in this, like you weren't happy, then it just keep getting worse. So tell us like what happened, like what made you tell the truth, because I feel like I was kind of pestering you to tell the truth, and then you had this thing going on, but then something happened where it's like, okay, I can actually be honest.
I wish I could say what happened. I will say that you guessed it a couple times, and I denied it, and I lied.
You did deny it. You did.
So I started feeling like the next time she guesses it right, I have to just say yes. And then the conversation came up randomly, so I decided to go for it.
That was the first time I think that we were so radically honest about attraction, about weight gain, about Junior's expectations, about how I felt resistant to change for Junior because I am very autonomous, sometimes hyper independent to a fault, where I don't want to do anything for anyone but myself. But the honesty led us to be able to explore different options, to test things out, to try things out, and to figure out, okay, what do we really want? And you can speak for yourself. Like, when we were honest, like, what did that do for you? Like, when we finally, the rubber met the road, what did the honesty lead us to?
Well, for me, I think it was good to get it off my chest. So I immediately felt relief. And then I was glad that you understood where I was coming from, and that you agreed. Like you said exactly what you said now about not wanting it to be tied to me, but that was something that you wanted to explore and learn more of anyway, because you realized that you wanted to grow in that area. So what I was complaining about was something that you wanted to grow in. You didn't want it to be for me, but hey, now I'm knocking on your door saying, "Hey, I noticed this," and so you're like, "Well, I'm a start. Give me some time." I didn't want to hear that. Yeah. I was like, bro, I've been dealing with this for years.
Yeah.
But I was like, all right. And yeah, the conversation went really well.
Yeah. I would like I can go back to that place, and I was so surprised at how well the conversation went. It didn't explode. It had definitely some peaks and valleys, but
so it had some times where we just stopped talking.
Yeah.
There were some times where I said something and it was quiet. And I had to be okay with the silence and not feel that silence in my head with thoughts like, oh, she's mad, or she's about to go off on me, or oh, she's not gonna talk to me, or you know what? Let me stop. Let me stop right now. Let me go ahead and like recant my statement. Let me say that's not really what I want to say. Let me tie it to something else. Let me not say it's about weight. Let me say it's about, something else. Let me blame myself, or say she's just being busy.
Yes. Now, in that conversation, Junior was the one being honest, but I was the one who was receiving all that honesty, right? It's a two-way street. There's somebody who's being honest, but there's somebody who has to hear all that. And I think that in different parts of the conversation, it was definitely hard for me to hear what you were saying. And those pauses and those silences you were talking about was me processing what my husband is saying. He's literally saying, hey, my attraction has gone down. Like, and I'm like, I'm thinking a whole bunch of thoughts. I'm trying to like regulate my own emotions. I'm trying literally not to create a story in my head like, oh, he's, this and he's that and he's blah, 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 whatever. And I'm really trying to be like, no, Chrislyn, listen to what he is saying. And try not to take it like so personal, just like listen to what she's trying to say because he's being loving. But I think what that honesty did for me was, man, I think it took me on a journey that I never even expected myself to go on, which is access to my femininity. I've always just shut that part of myself down because, like, one, honestly, I just didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know how to access it. I didn't know what it means. Two, I had contempt for it. I just felt like, to go down that path meant that I wasn't smart. I felt like sometimes women, if you're paying attention to their looks, then you're not paying attention to their brain, and I'm like, no, I don't want to be, associate with my looks. And then also I had no guide. I didn't even know what that meant at all. Like, I have to be honest about that. I was very ignorant in this space. And that is part of the conversation because Junior was honest with me. As we said in the beginning of this episode, there's a sense of freedom. Now, what he had to deal with, we both had to deal with different things, right? He had to deal with patience. He was like, yeah, you were honest with me, but that doesn't mean you're going to get an answer right away. That doesn't mean you're going to even get what you want. Honesty doesn't always mean that you're going to get what you want. You said what your truth, you expressed it to me, but I had to deal and process with it. So, he was able to say that, but I was able to like explore the feelings, ask myself hard questions. Well, why don't you want to do this? Or, but what is this about? Well, why don't you want to do it for him? And do you feel comfortable in your own skin? Like, how do you feel about losing weight? And I had to explain to Junior my entire weight journey. Like, I had to really, really explain it to him. I'm like, if you think that I just want to be overweight, like there's a lot of history behind this. And I really got an opportunity because he was honest with me to like expose him to my own heart, my own journey, and like show him like where he could support me, like give him realistic expectations. Like, I don't know when this is gonna, whatever. And then after that, we were able to revisit this conversation with way more clarity, with way more ease and way more freedom, that now it's like we've made so much progress in this specific attraction area.
And I would say that's the biggest takeaway from being honest. Like, anyone who's afraid or pensive about having that initial hard conversation, it's going to be so much easier to talk about it the second time around.
Okay.
The second time around, we talked about attraction or whatever like that, like a little small update. It's easy. Now we just joke about it. It's to the point where it's like, were we afraid to talk about this? Really? Because it's so easy now. So that's to encourage anybody out there who's afraid to have that initial conversation. I'm going to remind you of a time where you were honest with me and that I get to flip all the questions back on you.
Oh my God.
Because there was one time, and by the way, the honest conversations always happen in the random times.
They do.
I'm sitting down and my wife is across the table and she says, I can't do this. I do not. I refuse to be a single mom. In my mind, I'm thinking,
we didn't have a child at that time.
What's going on? Was the food bad? Is this a game? What's happening? And she confronts me there. And in a way, she's almost like spilling over herself. Like, she didn't want to say it, but it's just, I don't know. The moment was right. And it just had to come out. And she said she does not want to be a single mom. She started with just how she feels. And I felt that. Because my mom is a single mom. She raised 2 kids. She had us at 40 years old. And she had married to an abusive man for 13 years. So she was going through abuse. Then, and raising us by herself with the man in the house. Then when he was gone, she was raising us by herself. Just nothing changed.
Okay.
Ain't no child support.
Dang.
My wife said, I don't want to be a single mom. I said, oh, snap. So I get to flip all the questions on you now, because that was a moment where you had to come to me and express yourself, something that was bothering you. And then I could tell you what I gained from that situation quickly.
Yeah, I think that, and you mentioned this, so you can probably explain it better, but I think sometimes what stops us from being honest is the fear of people's reactions or fear like, I didn't want to feel like a nag to Junior. I didn't want to feel like a burden to Junior. I didn't want to feel like a bother to him. I wanted his life to stay unbothered and I wanted to stay fun. And I just remembered that because as a woman, if you bother your husband, he can easily go find another woman that won't bother him. And that has always been the story initially of the thing in my head. So I think that the reason what stopped me from being honest was that fear, like, don't bother your husband, you know?
Wow.
And I think what pushed me to be honest is the fact that I know we were coming up on real critical decisions, like having and starting a family. And I've always, it's weird, but you know, I feel like I've always been clear about my motherhood and what I want it to look like. And, you know, like a lot of things have changed, but for the most part, who I am is who I am, you know, and that was starting to boil over more than the fear. Like that feeling of like discomfort because we were in a situation where I would not call you a man child because you are very, you know, competent, but you were, you know, playing a role.
Well, just say selfish.
Okay, selfish.
Selfish.
Okay, yeah, selfish.
Selfish.
Okay.
Selfish. Selfish.
Selfish, selfish.
Selfish.
Yeah, there was things where I'm like, it didn't bother me per se, but I'm just me. And for us coming into the space of like, we want to build a family with you with that same level of selfishness, I just could not see how that was going to work. It didn't bother me, but me with a child, oh, hell no, nah, this ain't gonna work.
And
it's not gonna work. We all carry around different worries and stresses. Some of them are big, some of them are small. And holding on to them can really weigh us down. But there's a place where you can let it all out, a safe space where you can talk freely and find ways to feel better. Now, whether or not you've tried therapy, let me share something with you. Therapy isn't just for big problems, it's for anyone who wants to feel happier and more at ease. It's like having a supportive friends who train to help you navigate life's ups and downs. If you're considering therapy, why not give BetterHelp a try? It's all done online, so it's super convenient and fits into your schedule. Just answer a few questions and they'll match you with a licensed therapist. And if you ever feel like you need a change, you can switch therapists at no extra cost. So why not take that first step toward feeling better? Visit betterhelp.com/black marriage today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/black marriage.
And so let me tell you what was going on. I was selfish, and it's so similar to what you just said with your experience, because I didn't know what it was to be paternal. I avoided it like the plague. As a matter of fact, I didn't avoid it. I had animosity towards those good dads. Look at you being a father. I didn't know that that's how I felt within me because I did not have an example at all.
I
had a non-example. I didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And you can feel my resistance or my inactivity to, you know, planning this family with you. You can feel my nonchalant attitude. You can feel me being dismissive of any concerns or questions you have, right? As we're getting ready to start this family, you can feel I'm not fully bought in.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course I'm not fully bought in. I'm not fully bought in myself.
Damn.
And so when you come to me and tell me how you're feeling, you're giving me the opportunity now to address something deeper within myself.
Yes.
I love being a dad. I did not know how to be a dad. I still don't know how to be a dad, but I didn't let that stop me, right? After you had the conversation, because I did let it stop me before.
Yeah.
Right. And so the same reason why you were afraid to talk to me about being a dad was the same reason I was afraid to talk to you. And then when things start getting critical, that's when we just have the conversation in the parking lot, have the conversation after dinner. When things get critical,
random
conversations.
Yeah.
Praise God, they both turned out okay.
Yeah.
But that's not good. We should definitely prepare, right? And not wait till things get critical.
But like that is the freedom of honesty. Like what you're saying is the fact that when you are honest, you allow the other person to explore, to make choices, to really decide and seek for themselves as to the problem that you're presenting, right? But if you lie or if you like, try to manipulate the situation or pretend like everything's okay or placate the situation, then you find yourself in more trouble, right? And what happened over time, and this is what we're going to get to in our next section, is that what happened over time, those two situations, we waited till it was critical. We waited till our emotions pushed us to being so honest because we were so uncomfortable in our relationship, right? But over time, when we learned what true honesty looked like, what that process looked like, we are able to have honest conversations quicker, easier, and not gonna lie, a day ago, we had a very real, honest conversation. And it was by far the smoothest, honest conversation we had. Something happened. I was triggered. I was emotional. And I literally walked into the room and I was like, Junior, I didn't like this. I didn't like this. This is how I felt, blah, blah, blah. This took years of practice to deal with fear, to learn to do it with love, to regulate our emotions, to have empathy, like to put aside the ego. It took years of practice of learning how to be honest in order for us to really do that, right? So that's what we're talking about here. In this next section is how do we be honest? For all of you listening to this episode, you want to know how to be honest. And that's what we're going to explain to you now. First step to being honest. Honesty starts with you. I do want to put a disclaimer here for all you guys who are just starting out being honest. Please, please don't let fumbling and bumbling and doing it wrong, like stop you from continuing to be honest. The first time you do it, you may do it with ego, you may do it harsh, you may do it right, but it takes practice. And the first step to learning how to be honest in your relationship is being honest with yourself. You have to be able to have conversations with yourself. In my communication episodes, quite a couple times in different episodes and on this podcast, you'll hear me say, learn how to have a conversation with yourself. Learn to ask yourself deep questions. My pastor says, ask yourself why 7 times. If there's something that is on your heart, on your mind, let's say it's attraction, let's say it's, a parenting, let's say it's career, ask yourself why 7 times, and that'll help you kind of get down to, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to figure out. But being honest in your relationship starts with being honest with you.
And so my next point is how to create a safe space, because honesty will only thrive in a safe space. Do you know why you need a safe space? Because another word for honesty is just vulnerability. You got to reach in the vulnerable bag and pull out honesty. Okay. And so in the same vein as vulnerability, it always takes someone to start and present it to make it safe. Now, that's not saying that you guys don't have the initial conversation. So you guys can sit down and say, hey, are we, I want us to start being honest with each other and feel free to have honest and open communication.
Oh, that's good.
This is going to take time. And you guys both discuss if that's what you want, how you guys want to do it. You guys talk about it. But then after you talk about it, someone has to be honest. Because what happens is one person is honest, and then the next time, hopefully, the other person leaves the honesty, or maybe not. Maybe you got to be honest again, and then you got to be honest again, and then you got to be honest again. As long as there is no harm being done, the honesty has been taken and thrown into your face, then you continue to present with honesty, right, until the other person catches on that, yes, this is a safe space. Yes, they actually mean that. And I don't even blame that person for taking a little bit of time before they start being honest. You ever seen somebody at the red light? They don't go just yet. Okay. It's crazy people out here.
Oh, yeah.
7:07, and they trying to get there at 7:00. So it's like, okay, this is a new thing for us. We're gonna try being honest. I'm gonna watch you be honest a couple times, 3, 4, 5 times, see if it sticks, and then they come in with the honesty as well, and we go back and forth, back and forth. If you're building it by yourself, I will be honest with you, that's not gonna work. If it's just you, if this is the 10th time, and they're just like, yay, good job, but they're not being honest, they're not being vulnerable, then I would recommend sometimes you need a third party. Let's just be honest. You need a third party.
Yeah.
You may not be able to go home and do this yourself. You may need some intervention, and that's okay.
Yeah. A safe place in your relationship means that you create an environment, whether that means like an hour like before bedtime, like whatever that safe place is, you're creating essentially an environment that's like non-judgmental, that's not criticizing, that has empathy, it's not harsh. So if you're in a relatively healthy relationship or a healthy relationship, but you still need to work on your honesty and build tools to, if you really need to sharpen the skill of your honesty, then you could practice that. You have a safe place in your relationship.
I would also say that safe place in your relationship is important because every now and then I still bite my tongue before I'm honest. It's a process, right? And so having that safe space lets me know, oh, last time I was honest and the world didn't end and we were okay. So I can go past this hesitancy and just say what I need to say.
Okay. So this last part of how to be honest is, I want to break it down so people understand, because when it comes to honesty, there's the person who's being honest, but then there's also the other person who's receiving what you're saying. So for the person who's being honest, I think it's very important that you are mindful of your tone, your timing, being empathetic, saying it with love, making sure that you had a conversation beforehand in your mind, being honest with yourself, right? I in a recent conversation with Junior, I was really angry. The emotion was there and it was true. But when I had the conversation with myself, I realized that not only was I angry at Junior, but I was also angry at myself. And that played a part into how I was behaving, because I betrayed myself in a way, right? And that was part of the conversation. But if I didn't take the time to explore that, and I was just coming at Junior angrily and honestly, not that the emotion is not valid, there's still a missing piece there, So for the person who is trying to be honest, you do have to be mindful of those things. Now, for the person who is receiving the honesty, I think the most important thing is emotional regulation. I think you have to be in tune with your emotions in order to receive honest conversations. I can only say this to you because I have not responded emotionally, like healthily. Okay. I have not responded the right way. And now that I know how to respond the right way, that is why I can tell you this. Originally, especially because my go to is shutting down, when Junior would come to me with honest conversations, even if I really wanted to have the honest conversation, I did not know how to regulate my emotions in order to hear what he was saying so that I can actually have a conversation and resolve it. Right. So initially, what I was doing was reacting. And reacting is like a instinctive, it just happens, right? It happens in a moment. You just react, and your body may fight, it may flight, it may, what's the other one, freeze, right? You may get defensive, you may get offensive. It doesn't matter what it is, but that's you reacting, right? And when it comes to honesty, I want to take you from a place of reacting, right, which is your instinctual feelings, right, to what the person is saying, to responding. Responding when somebody is being honest with you means that you're taking in their information. You have regulated your emotions enough where you're not taking it personally. You're taking in their information. You're thinking about it critically. You're analyzing it. And then you can actually respond in a way that is emotionally healthy. It doesn't mean that you don't feel hurt. It doesn't mean that you don't feel betrayed or whatever that emotion is. You still feel it, but you're able to take it in a way where you are actually processing through those emotions in a healthy way.
I'm so glad you said that, because some people think that honesty is just being sterile. Yes, we are trying to remove some things, right? Like, okay, remove the ego, right? Remove the tone in our voice that's not helpful, right? But what's going to be effective? It's not going to be an attitude. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be that, right? It's going to be a good body posture. It's going to be a great time, good environment, all this other stuff. But I love the fact that you said you can still hold on to your emotions.
Yeah.
because people think you have to let go of the emotions in order to have a successful rate of being honest.
Exactly. In order for you to receive honesty well, that doesn't mean like, oh, that doesn't mean I can't feel my emotions. No, you can feel them. Right. There was plenty of times where Junior was saying certain things to me, and I'm like, wow, this is really pissing me off. Right. And I'm getting angry, but it's like I can feel that feeling of anger and not react with anger, you know? But that leads me to my last point when it comes to how being honest. In your reactions, when you're going with that first instinctual feeling, you can retaliate, right? Because we said this in the beginning. A lot of people are afraid to be honest because there's a fear of what comes after they say that honest thing. So for the person who is receiving what the person is saying, you have to be very mindful of creating repercussions for the person's honesty or like retaliating against them. If they feel like every time they are honest with you, you retaliate, they will not be honest. And what happens is eventually you lead yourself to delusion. You're going to create a scenario where you're not living in reality. If there's no honesty, there is no reality. You're living in a delusion. I can promise you that. Right. And it's not good for your relationship. Right? Because we mentioned in the beginning that honesty equals freedom. There's an ease in your relationship when you're able to be honest. If you create a toxic environment where your spouse cannot be honest with you, it's not going to be good for your relationship. So it's very important that you're mindful of not retaliating. One way to avoid this easily is that if you feel like you're having a reaction, right? And listen, sometimes reactions are reactions. You can have reactions to honesty. If you feel like you're having a reaction, take a break. Take a break. You don't have to answer. You don't have to respond at that moment. Take a break. Take what they said, walk away.
Tell them that you're going to take a break.
Tell them you're going to take a break, walk away, rather than retaliate to the person where they feel like, you know what, I can never be honest. In that same breath, for the person who is sharing something that you're being honest with the person, you have to anticipate reactions and responses.
That's good. That's good.
If you are so easily blown away by somebody reacting, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
You can't let someone's reaction stop you from being honest, right? You're like, so what I mean by that is like, because I think retaliation is where people are like, no, I'm not going to be honest anymore. But you have to anticipate reactions.
So what happens is I say something to Chrislyn and she is upset or she is saddened.
I have emotions.
She has a natural reaction to something.
Yes.
And I feel like just giving up, shutting down, don't be honest anymore.
Yes.
What I found is I need to push past that and still express to her how I feel. Oh, I feel like giving up now that you said that. Or dang, I'm a little bit upset that you're upset right now.
Yes.
But I'm still being honest. What would be dishonest is me getting mad because she's mad. That's what I used to do.
Yes.
Punish her.
Yes.
Right? But now I just say it. I'm upset though. Why are you mad at me? You being mad at me is making me mad at you.
Yeah.
I say that. And that's what always helps because the reaction does sometimes get to us. The person being honest, do not stop being honest.
I think that they're confusing a reaction with like a repercussion, like, or retaliation. You feel like, well, the person getting angry about what I said is like them saying that I can't be honest. But you have to tell yourself they are having a genuine emotional response to what I said. And that's okay. Well, I feel like that's okay.
What I would say is this, though. This is how I used to temper it.
Yeah.
If you start getting mad, I tell myself I can no longer have this conversation. I need to exit because I've never seen you process the anger and come back to me and keep being honest.
Okay.
If people don't know how to be honest, the first bump in the road, the first sign of danger, right? They were initially honest. They got the first initial reaction, the first sign of danger, and they flee.
Yeah.
But now, whenever I say something to you and you have a reaction, you know what I see? You pause. We don't talk. It's quiet. You process it. And then you start talking, being honest again. And then you know what? Now I'm honest again. But before we learn how to do that, your initial reaction, I'm like, well, this is it. This is the end of the road. And so that's why it's so important for both of us to be reflecting ourselves. That's another issue with people being honest. Sometimes we're so focused on giving the other person the truth.
Okay.
Little do you know, as soon as you open your mouth and they ask you that one question, now you're reflecting yourself. Dang, she's a single mom. How are you gonna be a single mom, but I'm paying bills though? That's what I really want to say. But then I start to reflect on myself, and I say, yeah, I know I'm not really feeling this dad stuff. So it's the beauty of the give and take that we have, but it just takes like one person putting the left foot forward and the other person puts the right foot, and then you put the left foot again because you see, oh, they're still here. They haven't left me behind. And then you put the right foot and they put the left foot and you put the right foot, and then we're running. And then we do that a couple times, we're in sync.
I think the ultimate goal in what we're trying to say is that, especially in the beginning, there's going to be more reactions than there's responding. There might be a little repercussions. There might be some retaliations, right? But don't give up, because you want to get to the point where you're moving from reactions to responding. I think that we are in a space right now that we've practiced enough. We've like smoothed out the rough edges enough where we can respond when our spouse is being honest with us, right? We can have our emotions, we can feel upset, but we can literally say, I'm really angry with what you said right now. I need a break, right? Where we're in a healthy space of regulating our own emotions rather than staying in that reaction, retaliation cycle.
So the conversation continues.
And that is the last tip. Practice. And y'all probably tired of me saying this because I'm going to say it again and I'm going to say it again. You have to practice. Every tool, every skill that we're talking about on Black Marriage Therapy needs to be worked out. You have to be able to practice honesty in order for you to get to a good place with it, right? And create a process, create a system. So for example, our system, when we really want to be honest with each other, we said, hey, I want to talk to my best friend. I don't want to talk to my husband. And that is just one cue to let me know, put your guard down, get your defenses down, open your ears. This is a real honest conversation that my husband wants to have with me. And I need to make sure that I'm creating a safe environment. So you may be able to come up with something like that. Another option is sitting back to back. Right? Maybe looking at each other's eyes, may make your emotions flood. Sit back to back. I've heard somebody else say, like, they play their favorite love song, like, or something like that. And like, it just makes them calm down.
You're going to ruin your favorite love song.
No, but like in the background or something like that to make them calm down or to make them think about, that initial, it eases them. Right? So they're not like in a heightened state. But, those are just different examples of how you can create a system around being honest.
Have a physical place, a Switzerland.
Oh, a Switzerland. That's great. A coffee shop, a kitchen. That's good.
Have a physical Switzerland.
Yeah. Where it's just like, hey, this is not an argument
space. Or you can just call Switzerland.
Call Switzerland. Yeah.
Switzerland.
Hold a feather, a bell, a box, something. You guys can get super creative, but you have to practice and create a process. And that is how to be honest in your relationship. Well, that is all that we have for you today. Of course, we're going to end with a quote. Junior has one and I have one, and I think they're both good.
My quote: "The truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off," by Gloria Steinem.
And mine is, "Truth without love is brutality, and love without truth is hypocrisy." Unknown. Well, guys, thank you all for tuning into this episode of Black Marriage Therapy. If you haven't yet, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Black Marriage Therapy. Thanks again for listening. Talk to you soon.